As someone who cares about the details of my workspace, I've come to recognize the value of having a well-designed keyboard. It's the interface to our work and a display piece at the center of our desks. While we can buy something off the shelf, they don't compare to the joy and satisfaction of building one yourself. Hello, I'm Matthew Encina. In this video, I'll share the process of building a custom mechanical keyboard from start to end and show you ways you can personalize it for those curious about the hobby. Before we begin, I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this portion of the video. As a relative newcomer myself, I know how overwhelming it is to buy and build your first keyboard. There's a lot of good information out there, but it can be challenging to connect all the dots. That's why I've collaborated with keyboard enthusiast Sam Pack to put together a curated guide to help you navigate your first build. Thanks to Squarespace, I'm able to host, design, and publish content like this on my blog, modmusings.com. The blogging tool Squarespace offers makes it easy for me to create rich media experiences and embed videos directly from YouTube or Vimeo. Because of the analytics, I'm able to measure the performance of my content and where my audience is coming from, so I know where to focus my efforts to grow my business. I've been using Squarespace for over a decade to build multiple sites. The process has always been intuitive and the results are always beautiful. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Matthew Encina to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, let's build our keyboard. Today we'll be building the Mode Sonnet, a 75% layout keyboard that comes in a huge variety of colors, materials, and accents, which is a good representation of what you might find out there. This keyboard was sent to me by Mode for this video and is currently available for pre-order, which I've linked to in the description. While this is a prototype, it's very close to what the actual production unit will look like. Every keyboard is made up of these main components: the case to house everything, the PCB, which allows the keyboard to communicate with your computer, the plate that holds your switches in place, stabilizers for longer keys like spacebar and enter, the switches, which connect to your PCB, and the keycaps, the face of your keyboard. The case, PCB, and plate are often sold together as a keyboard kit, while the stabilizers, switches, and keycaps are commonly sold separately. There are also extra components you can buy that are optional, which we'll talk about later. To assemble your keyboard, you'll need a few tools, some of which might already come with your keyboard kit: precision screwdriver, lubricant, a small brush, tweezers, keycap puller, switch puller, and lastly, based on your PCB, a soldering iron. If this is your first build, I recommend getting a hot swap PCB, like we're building today, which allows you to install your switches and swap them out without the need to solder. Once you have all of your components, the first thing you should do is test your PCB. You want to make sure everything functions properly before you spend the time to build everything. To do that, you're going to take your PCB and connect it to your computer. This keyboard uses a daughter board and JST connector, so we'll have to plug those in first. Next, you'll open up a key testing software. I use VIA and test that each key works by using a pair of metal tweezers to make contact with the sockets. One tip to make this easier is to flip the PCB over and make contact with the back, as the conductive area is easier to access. In the rare case that something isn't working, you can reach back out to the manufacturer for a replacement. Now that we know the PCB works, we can move on to the next step. First, we'll need to assemble and lubricate our stabilizers, which are essential for keeping our long keys like the spacebar balanced and supported when pressed. The goal here is to have your stabilizers tuned to the point where they don't rattle for smooth operation and sound. This is something I'm still trying to get better at, but in the build guide, I've linked a great video by Alex Otos that covers this process in detail. As a quick overview, I'm making sure that the stabilizer wires are straight, lubricating the housing and wires wherever friction may occur, then assembling the wires and housing together. Next, I'll be installing these stabilizers onto the PCB, clipping them in. You might need to screw yours in depending on the stabilizer you're using. Before moving on, we want to do a quick test to make sure the stabilizers are installed flat and are operating correctly. If you hear rattling or the keys get stuck, it usually means that the stabilizer isn't seated properly or you need more lubricant. For more details, check out the guide linked in the description. Next, we're going to grab our plate, which will hold our switches in place. The plate material you choose will have a big impact on the feel and sound of your board. There's a great video by content creator Keyboard that explains the science behind this, but I'll generalize it here. The stiffer your plate material, the higher pitch the sound might be. The softer your plate material, the deeper the sound might be. There's a lot more to it, and I'll share examples later in the video of how different configurations of plate materials, sound modifiers, and switches affect the overall feel and sound. If this is your first build, I recommend starting with an aluminum or FR4 plate, which sits in the middle of the material stiffness. I'll use the FR4 plate and install it onto the PCB standoffs. Next up is to install our switches. There are so many MX style switches available on the market these days that fall into three main categories. Linear, which is a smooth press from top to bottom, tactile, which has a noticeable bump, and clicky, which has a tactile bump and an additional clicking sound. If you're still figuring out what you like, I recommend buying a sample pack of various switches to discover what your preferences are. The switches I'll be using are these Gazzew Boba U4T tactile switches, which come factory lubricated, but I've had them additionally hand lubricated for better performance. Hand lubrication of your switches is optional, which you can do yourself or have done for you. I've left details all about this in the build guide. When you install your switches, I like to start in the corners to help align the plate and PCB together, then work my way from the middle out. I found this order to be especially helpful when working with softer plate materials or PCBs without screw standoffs. A few tips here. Before you install any switch, make sure the pins are straight so they go into the socket properly. If they're bent, use tweezers to straighten them out. Make sure you brace the back of the PCB and firmly press the switch straight and evenly so they clip into the plate. If your plate ever starts sagging, you can always pull up the edges to make sure the plate and PCB are parallel to each other. You'll notice on this PCB, a few keys have options of facing north or south. These are the other supported layouts of the board, like a longer 7U spacebar or a shorter 6.25U spacebar. Before we move on to the next step, it's a good idea to test all of your keys once more, this time pressing your switches. You might find that one of your keys might not be triggering. In that case, we'll use our switch puller, grab the tabs, and pull it out of the socket. Usually the problem is the pin didn't go in correctly, and you might have to straighten it out if it got bent on the way in. With everything working properly, we're going to now mount the PCB and plate to our case. Each keyboard has its own mounting style that varies, and again will impact the final feel and sound of your board. For the Sonnet, we can mount it in two ways: an isolated top mount for an open sound signature and flexible typing feel, or stack mount for a muted sound signature and firm typing feel. I'll show you the differences between both, but for now, I'll go with the top mount installation. To do that, I'm going to slide on the provided silicone plate caps and fasten the plate onto the top housing of the case. Now, we'll move on to the base. First, we'll install these rubber feet onto the bottom for added grip and protection. Many keyboards these days offer optional weights out of heavy materials. While they don't affect the board's function, they can impact its sound, feel, and aesthetic. The weight I've chosen is this beautiful copper, which you can see through the polycarbonate base. Up next, we'll install the daughter board into the base with the provided fasteners. Then we'll take the JST connector and plug it into the PCB, making sure the pins line up. Now we can close the case and screw it back together. The last step of assembly is to add our keycaps, the face of your keyboard. Keycaps come in various height profiles and are made from different manufacturers. It's a deep well to explore on its own. From my experience, I personally enjoy keycaps in the cherry profile because they are the most comfortable for me to type on. For this build, I'm using GMK9s, a dark gray and cream color, which I think pairs well with this board. These keycaps are designed so that each row has a different angle for better typing comfort. Because these keycap sets are designed to fit a variety of keyboards, you may see duplicates of some keys that have different heights and angles. You can always check by looking at the profile of how your keycaps sit on the board. If you accidentally put in the wrong height keycap, you can use your keycap puller to take it out and replace it. This last step is optional. If you're a Mac user or want to alter your key map layout, you can simply plug in your keyboard, load up VIA, and remap the keys to your liking. You can also program macros if you like to utilize shortcuts. Now we have a completely built keyboard ready to use. Here's how it sounds. While we could be done there, there's so much more we can do. I'm going to show you how changing a few components of this keyboard can have a big impact on the aesthetic, feel, and sound. While I enjoy that open sound signature, let's go for something deep and muted. To accomplish that, I'm going to use the two sound modifiers that you can buy with this keyboard: the silicone dampener for the bass, and the foam that sits between the PCB and the plate. This will change our mounting style of the board to be stack mount, which will produce a more firm typing feel. These two should have a significant impact on the acoustics of the keyboard. Let's test the before and after. While I like the sound of this, I want to take it a step further. First, I'll change my plate out to this very soft POM material. Next, I'll change out the switches with these hand-lubricated Gateron black ink linear switches. These two should make the sound signature a little bit deeper based on my experience with them. And for fun, I want to add a little visual flair. I love the copper accent of this board, so as a small side project, I decided to DIY my own copper spacebar. This was a lot more challenging than I thought, and my first attempt was really bad because the paint didn't sit well and was very uneven. That's because I was impatient and globbed on too much paint on each pass. So I tried again, and the second attempt came out so much better. This time I sprayed lightly, almost like a mist, and was a lot more patient, taking my time. I'll post a short tutorial on my Instagram if you want to learn more about the process. Now here's how this configuration looks and sounds. While some people love the feel of a mechanical keyboard, sometimes you or your coworkers might not love the loud sound. Luckily, there's such a thing as silent switches. My favorite is the Gazzew Boba U4 switches because they offer a large, satisfying tactile bump like the U4Ts while being close to silent. For this configuration, I want to change the aesthetic to go for a black theme. So I'll switch out the accent piece at the top and change out the back piece of the case. Mode laser engraved this for me based on a design I made. While they don't offer this as a service, you can easily find vendors that do. Next, I'm going to swap out the keycaps with PBT Fans Neon, which are these unique translucent black keycaps. Here's how our black and silent configuration sounds. Now to go the opposite direction. What if we want something loud and bright? Let's start by removing our silicone and foam dampeners, converting this back to an isolated top mount configuration. Then we'll change our plate to carbon fiber. It's the stiffest material I have, which can produce a higher pitched sound. Next, we'll change our switches to these hand lubricated Duroc Koala tactile switches, which from my experience are louder and higher pitched compared to the Boba U4 keys. To change up the aesthetics, I'll swap out the keycaps with GMK Minimal, a classic black on white set. For fun, I want to give my keyboard a white oak wood accent to match my desk setup. Because Mode doesn't offer anything in wood, I reached out to my friend Bao of Designcraft Workshop to help me out. Bao is a woodworker and content creator who I met online. He used this CNC machine to mill a custom accent piece for me, which he sanded down and finished with polyurethane. Upon arrival, I had to do a little more sanding to get it to fit into the keyboard. I tried to add screws using a tap, but for whatever reason, I was having a hard time getting the screws to go in. Luckily, the accent piece pressure fits into the slot and doesn't seem to pop out. This will do for now. Between the stiff carbon fiber plate, isolated top mount, and Duroc Koala switches, I expect the sound signature to be much louder and higher pitched compared to our previous configurations. These 4 configurations should give you an idea of how much you can personalize your own build. There are so many fun things you can do to customize your keyboard to suit your preferences and express your personality. From different keycaps and switches, custom artisans and accent keys, laser engraving, custom paint jobs, or you can even DIY your own solutions. The possibilities are endless and are what makes the hobby so much fun. If you're interested in the Mode Sonnet keyboard we built today, it's available for pre-order right now, starting at $299. There are millions of pairings you can select from using the configurator on their website, which I'll link to in the description below. If you need help with your first keyboard build, don't forget to check out the guide on modmusings.com. If you have any questions, ask and I'll do my best to answer. With that out of the way, it's time to get back to work.